Well, good afternoon, Atlanta. You're listening to WGE Networks. This is Herman Anderson, co-host Anthony Aiken. This is Veteran Today, our first show in program in 2025. As I mentioned, I am one of the co-hosts along with Anthony Aiken. We ask you to join us today, our Veteran Today radio program in this new year, new resources, new perspective with hosts Anthony C. Aiken, Herman Anderson, special guest, German, Remy
Jeremy.
Jeremy Walker.
Yeah. Jeremy Walker.
Founder and Chief Vision, Helmets to Boots Foundation and LLC Army Sergeant, first class retired. This is February 17th. We're at 12 p.m. And there are ways for you to join us and follow us and respond to us. And they are watch us live stream on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. You can go to WCEG Radio, WCEG Network, WCEG TV Channel, www.WCEG Talk Radio, visually impaired veterans of America, Anthony's organization, Veteran Hip and Veteran Inc., Herman Anderson's organization, and Veteran Hip and Veteran ATL's pound sign. So that's those are the options you have. We are, as we say, we're streaming live on Facebook, and it's archived after the show. And disclaimer is the topics and opinion are those of the show host and guests, not WCEG Network. WCEG Network is a nonprofit. Our business office is 404-490-8648. With that, let's get started. Good afternoon, Anthony.
Good afternoon, and thanks for that great introduction. And also, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
As I'm saying to you, just like you stated earlier, 8 years of doing this because of our passion to provide truth and information to veterans and their families worldwide. Jeremy, it's just good to have you, kicking us off this year. I hope you don't be like the Falcons, fall off at the end. But I tell you what, it's such a great pleasure to have you here, and welcome.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And Germany is a repeat on our program. He's great, and we probably will be having it again. And he has a great bio. Sometime I read all of it, sometime I don't. Today, his bio is directly in line with my vision for my organization, for this program, and for other veterans organization. I'm also American Legion Post Commander, Post 134. I'm active with the VFW, so and AARP veterans, so I put in a lot of time helping veterans. And with that, Jeremy Walker hails from Georgetown, South Carolina, where he joined from service beginning with his enlisted in the Army National Guard at the remarkable age of 16, graduating from Pleasant Hill High School just a year and a half later. He embarked on a distinguished career in military, initially as an artilleryman in active Army. Jeremy partook at a fifth turn following a training accident in Germany, leading to his reclassification to military intelligence, where he dedicated 22.5 years of his life in service to his country. His tenure culminated in retirement at Fort Gillem, Enclave, Forest Park, Georgia, where he held the extant position of senior intelligence officer and instructor for the Army groundbreaking process explanation and dissemination drone program. Throughout his illustrious career, he exemplified courage and outstanding leadership, earning accolades such as the prestigious Bronze Star for valor during comeback in Afghanistan. Upon retirement, Jeremy transitioned seamless into a civilian role as a system engineer, technical advisor in Alexandria, Virginia, before pursuing higher education at American International University, where he earned a Bachelor of Art in Business Administration. Undeterred by his own transition and challenges, he swiftly achieved a Master of Arts of Organizational Leadership with a flawless 4.0 GPA for the University of Massachusetts Global, all the while caring for his sister's three sons during her military deployment amidst the pandemic shutdown. Driven by his passion for continuous learning, an age-following veteran, Jeremy leveraged his extreme network and expertise gained from various veteran organizations to become the founder and chief visionary of Helmets to Boots, while Helmets to Boots Foundation, a nonprofit, is dedicated to improving the quality of life of veterans and their families, conducted individual 3-hour one-on-one information sessions to discuss benefits that are often severely overlooked as veterans transition out of the military. Helmets to Boot LLC simultaneously assists corporations in enhancing their veteran hiring practices, fostering veteran-friendly culture, improving DEI initiatives geared toward veterans. Jeremy is deeply committed to supporting empowering veterans through their transition and helping organizations that ultimately employ them. A key component of his effort is the Veteran Training Initiative bridges the information gap received upon exiting the military with valuable information, experience, and subject matter expert with veteran-related topics. The initiative often offers a curriculum to design using mostly veteran-owned, veteran-operated businesses to deliver essential topics such as HR training, behind veteran estate planning, health, coaching veteran benefits, post-military, life insurance, financial literacy, aimed at facilitating the transition from military service to civilian life through entrepreneurship and an effective program management. Jeremy is an active member of Atlanta Black Chamber of Commerce Veteran Empowerment Group, and an alum of the University of Health and Performance, and the current service officer for American Legion Post 296, residing in Marietta. He remains devoted to his faith, the principle of servant leadership, embodying a life dedicated to selfless service and selflessness in service. So, welcome, Jeremy.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
So, with that impressive bio, thing that you've done, what are the key focuses right now for you in Boots, Helmet to Boots? What would you want our listeners to know about your key components of your organization?
The three components Mr. Anderson talked about earlier is with the foundation. I'm so passionate about making sure we as a veteran community understand what's going on that I'm willing to spend 3 hours with you, 3 or 4 hours, depending on your story, and helping you understand what it is. Here's the regulations and so forth. And then what's your benefits? Not just 100% financially, but after that. There's trips, there's, I'm a personal trainer and different things. There's so many opportunities that help change your life that, 3 hours is just the icing on the cake. And then going into the LLC, I'm a project manager. So what's the biggest thing that's pushing us right now? Outside of the benefits, you got a homeless veteran population that's ridiculous. Well, if you look at the numbers, you got the active component makes up 7% of the world, the veteran community makes up 3%, and then you have the rest of the world, 90% of the world that never served, but they're related, or we got to come back in from being trained to being these warriors to not going back into the civilian life. Well, that makes a huge gap when it comes to us after we've done so much to serve this country. We got to do so much to get back into what we came from. So how come the corporations don't have a program or something like that, or somebody helping them to be able to not lower the standard, but to help them to get their environment straight to where we can adapt, they can adapt to us?
You know what? That is so key what you stated. I remember meeting this young captain coming out of Germany. There was a situation in his unit where one of his females was sexually abused.
Mm-hmm.
The father came from Chicago to visit the daughter and his command to go through the court system. And he handled it perfectly. So as he was about to leave and transition out of the military, his father, the soldier's father said, when you get out of the military, use this card and call me. A couple of months later, he got out, he called the gentleman up. The gentleman invited him to Chicago. Listen to a meeting. So the father said to him, what did you think about the meeting? And he said, well, I don't understand where your, orders of the day or your operational orders. And then from that, where's your medals? So he was talking a foreign language to this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, if you incorporate this particular operational order and your staff provide you the medals, which are the task, you would see rapid increase in sales.
Mm-hmm.
If he hadn't brought that to that company, which was a large pharmaceutical company, that went even higher because he was able to incorporate some of that military training, which you talked about, from that to the civilian world from which he came. So I think those points, those three particular pillars, are right on time and right spot that veterans need to know.
Definitely.
Let me make a comment about that because that's in my nonprofit in the American Legion is most particularly nonprofits and organizations, they have no idea. I mean, they know the word MMPs, policy and procedures, but they really, I'm speaking from experience, they really don't have one. No. Because I worked for AT&T, and AT&T had what we call BSP, Bell System Practices, and they were just like the military. Anything you needed to do, you could go find a document that told you how to do it and how to the escalation process, all the step-by-step processes that you need to do. And I know of what I'm going to work on in my organization is policy and procedures and processes. For example, 2025, we're going to set goals, objectives, money, and budgets, and have a process on how to get this done. Accountability. What is the project manager role? What is the people in marketing promotion role? And with my experience, in order to be better successful and reach our veterans, internally, we need to be able to explain and communicate to our veterans using like your programs and other programs that are available to get the word out to our veterans.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I'm doing now with Helmets to Boots is we don't know what we don't know. We get out and a lot of people say, well, you guys have all these resources and you should be in a different place. Well, I don't know half of those resources. Here I am retiring and I'm looking for the next job. You know, if you look at a American Legion, most of us don't know what the American Legion is. It took me 8 years to actually join, and now I'm the service officer, and I've learned more in 1 year just being in the organization, just participating or whatever case is. But that was happenstance. What if somebody told me about the Legion when I first got out? What if somebody told me about DAV or, Wounded Warriors and so forth? We hear about a lot of those things, but we don't understand it. So when you say that there's a lack of information in our community, it's just like most of our events. We have a lot of veteran focused events that come out as soon as you get out. And there's a table set up, there's a booth with somebody standing there, but you don't know what that means. So you just keep walking. No, we need a platform. We need a space like yours and others that are going to say, hey, we're bringing information to you. This is what I do in layman's terms. So helmets to boots, I made that a focus for me because 8 years ago when I retired, I didn't have that. And now all of a sudden through my journey, I figured it out. Well, how come if we come in the military, we got a drill sergeant, he got a regulation and they telling us what to do and everything we need to know about the military in less than 90 days. And then we become expediently proficient in learning about the service. But then there's nothing on the back end when you get out.
You're talking about difficulties for you being out 8 years. Think about Herman and I that's been out 25 years.
Yes.
Okay. Because what we had with that TAP program, Transitional Access Program, or whatever it was, 40 hours. And it wasn't basically about transitioning to a job. It's about, what your resume should look like, putting your clothes out every day, the night before so you can be dressed. It didn't talk about the VA process. Didn't talk really about going out and get your disabilities that you've earned.
Yes.
None of that was discussed. So when you get out, you're like, okay, what am I going to do now? I know when I retired in, 31 March 1999, you do the math, 25 years. 25 years. So you imagine what I went through and Herman went through, that Vietnam era guys, man, it's tough. And you're experiencing this now 8 years since you're retired.
Yeah.
So you see how messed up veterans are when it comes to understanding what they have earned, the disabilities, the benefits, the whole 9 yards. Because I've heard veterans say, well, if I do this, I'm taking them away from somebody else. What? You serve just like them.
Yeah.
The system offered you a blank check.
But
that's what we're told. Here's a blank check, fill it out later.
But it's like you said, it's an understanding. We all think that the VA is short with money. You got a couple of us that get out and we're still practically young. So now all of a sudden you still got that I'm Superman and all this other stuff. You don't realize in a couple of years, Superman's going to wear off and the body's going to start breaking down. And you're right. I thank God for you guys coming before us. I've always paid homage to my elders and I really appreciate everybody that came out before me. But that's where I'm at now. In my mid 40s, I look back and I'm at the Legion and I deal with older veterans. And you're right. My process is totally different than yours, even though it's getting better. But my understanding and being around, I hear the stories, man. When I got out, all I had to do was just get out and the VA just booted me out, or the military just booted me out. And I'm like, yes. When I got out, I had a transition course that was a week long and it focused on the same things you were talking about. But we have a different understanding now because there's a different purpose. Yeah. We lose sight of that big word. Okay, so the benefits, the VA's just gonna pay me. No. The VA's gonna take care of you when it comes to education. It's gonna take care of you, physically and so forth. That is a whole different mindset because there's nothing for us to wake up and go on sick call. That's easy. And you're taken care of and you're right back in the fight. Well, that's not the same process when you get, it used to take a year, and now community care came about in 2016. So there's a better process and now you get to get seen on the economy. But if you don't understand that and you walk into a doctor's office, you're still lost. We still need to have those conversations. We still need to be candid about it. And the problem is, to me, we have a lot of information that's being put out, but it's sugar-coated.
It is. And two items. A lot of veterans, from my experience, have no idea what community care mean. It, like say, the VA rolled it out, but there was no explanation and no really promotion to veteran population, how it works, how to use it, or anything like that. And my other point is you mentioned is in our nonprofit organization, because I'm associated with several. Yeah, you mentioned you became the service officer and you were hands on. I know you deal with us older guys in these organizations, and uh, number one, we are slow to change, and number two, you have people in there uh, for whatever reason. But if you're not hands on and you gain experience and expertise doing something, you're basically just sitting there in the organization, and you have people in the organization that join it, put it on their resume. They join it for, whatever reason, and that's just a fact. But that is an issue I'm dealing with in several organizations.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. To me, I'm still an NCO. I still serve. So being in the Legion, being a part of the chamber, being a part of UHP, and then starting helmets to boots, we do have that. There's a transition. So if you look at society is dictating where we're going in the veteran community. Everything is going from a book, now it's going on the internet. Yes, it is. I'm in my mid 40s. You guys are older than me, and so we need some help. Okay, I can help you with a computer. I don't have a problem with that, because what is the overall objective of the American Legion? It says be the one. Well, if I'm going to be the one and I know that you need help, it's the same thing as me being a non-commissioned officer, senior non-commissioned officer, first sergeant, sergeant major. You know, Mr. Aiken was a colonel. We still got to take care of each other, and we lose sight of that community a lot of times. And I was like, with the Legion, for me, it's just another family. It's another branch of the service that I'm into. And yeah, some people have more energy than others. And you're right, a lot of the attitudes and reluctancy is hard to deal with. But at the same time, it's no different than when I was in the military. So I'm just like, my brothers and sisters in arms need me. If I have the capability of doing it, or I can bring in a capability, that's where we need to go so we can better the community overall.
And thank you. And my point to that is, well, we are recruiting more people like you. So the more veterans you can bring along, I appreciate it. Thank you.
You
Yeah.
know, just listening to you and that explanation you just gave, this really points to what the basic foundation of WCEG Veterans Day Talk Radio is about. And that's called speaking truth into the community. You just spoke truth to the veterans. And hopefully those that are listening, either veterans or family members, would take that information to heed, because you said something earlier. The VA got a lot of money. They have a lot of funds that they should be obligated to give those that served. 1% of this nation's population serve in the military to protect the masses. 1%. But yet, when we get out, we have all of the issues of getting approved for illnesses, situations, or whatever that we engaged in or became involved with in the military. And we're talking male and female, not just one. Females have a whole track of things that they're dealing with in addition to what the males are dealing with. You know what I mean? And sometimes they marry, they mesh.
Yeah.
I just read a story not too long ago about a retired officer that got out, retired officer that went to get help because he was dealing with sexual abuse issues.
Yes.
Like, sexual abuse, what do you mean by that? Well, he was being sexually abused by women who outranked him. Women. And the same thing for men. I mean, there was a 2-star general in Vicenza, Italy, that was relieved from command because of the sexual abuse of women. Power. So I'm so glad now that the women are getting the attention that they've been lacking for years, and the men are getting the knowledge that they need to follow through to get something that they earn. Herman talked about a veteran in his serious years never got any compensation. I ran into a Korean War veteran, 90 plus years old, in a wheelchair at the VA when I was giving a speech, who had never, ever attempted to get any kind of compensation because he said, I was never told.
Exactly.
I was never told what to do.
And that's the common factor across the board is we can have a lot of things wrong with us, and we think, you know, it's like being in the military. We got barracks lawyers. So you hear this and you be like, somebody told me that. No, here's the thing where Humans to Boots differentiates itself from everybody else is I'm going to help you to know there's a regulation that the VA has. You have to make a claim. And a lot of us don't understand we have to make one. Well, I don't know how to do it, so I back up from it. Why back up from it? You know?
Well, I have an uncle in Savannah, Georgia. That's 104 years old. His daughter is his caretaker. He gets services from the VA, but they have never, and I've talked to him now, have never submitted a claim for any other benefits than just medical services. And that's really one of my projects is to get him to submit a claim.
Yeah, I mean, that's something we push all the time.
And talking about VSO, and you're a certified VSO, correct?
No, I'm an actual veteran service officer, so there's a difference. So
Yeah.
you have these certifications, which, you know, corporations like Wounded Warriors, the DAV, the VA is actually they actually have VSOs as well. You have the Warrior Alliance. So there's veteran service officers that go through training, get certified, and so forth. And guess what? That's awesome. But there's not enough of them. And then you have service officers like the American Legion, the VFWs, and so forth. So we're volunteers that turn around and say, hey, I want to assume this mantle. And we try to get as much training as possible. So with me, one of the things that which really agitated me coming here was like, why don't I get the same training as these guys, or why it's not mandated? Because the organization can be sued. Well, okay, that makes a difference when you're certified because you're going through training just like you did in the military. You have to take tests, and that's great because we need that. But then on the backside, all I'm doing is whenever I have the time, and I make the time for our veterans, is I can help you or I can assist you get the information you need in order to move further. Well, that's where there's a major disconnect. And so you can't go back and restructure a lot of the organizations, but what you can do is figure out a better system. So you have the Georgia Department of Veterans Services, you have the DAV, you have Wounded Warriors, and you have the Warrior Alliance, and all these veteran service organizations that offer training. And if you have the time as a service officer, you'll be there. And that's what I do. But a lot of us don't have the time because we don't have the resources. So the biggest thing for Helmets to Boots is if I can help you get to 100%. For the most part, that's my goal, is try to get every veteran to 100%. Now it changes your perspective and your quality of life. Well, everybody had a dream when they were a kid. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a doctor. I want to be something, but you went into the military. Well, if your entrepreneurship is where you want to go, now you have the funds to take care of a house. Hey, as a Sergeant First Class, retired, you know what? I can live the same way I did in the military. I'm more financial savvy or whatever the case is. And now my bills is, covered with my retirement and my disability. But now I have free education. I went to school. You heard, you read in my bio. I got a master's through Voc Rehab, or I got a bachelor's through Voc Rehab, and I got my master's through the University of Massachusetts. But then there was a tuition assistance that was given there, completely waived because I was 100%. A lot of us don't understand it or don't know it.
Correct.
So how does that give you, when you look at it, the most valuable thing you have on this earth is time? Well, if the more time I have, the more I can get educated, and the better off I can position myself in any organization to turn around and be a valuable asset. And that's where we as veteran service officers are going to have to like look at that to help each other.
Well, that is great. I mean, that's really a golden answer for me in my organization, because I've been chasing it, and like I I think Vivian mentioned before we even went live, when I first started the organization 14 years ago, we had a Korean veteran that was in a wheelchair was getting 0%. We took care of it. It took us about 3 years, and we had about two people in the organization that pretty much took the path of becoming a veteran service officers experts in doing the work. They were not, like you say, certified by the uh, the DAV in a way, but it's based on the work you do and how you can get it in the system, and that's by working with those organizations. And it's been kind of like a thorn in the side, is to explain to people that are doing VSO work, or people that are just on the sideline looking how the system works, and how our organization can function within this environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the beautiful thing about it is if we use those skills and the knowledge we got from the military, I'm a senior NCO, right? My biggest thing is networking. And you hear that all the time. Your net worth is your network. Okay, that's true. It's still the same thing. We got a bunch of veteran service organizations out here that are all doing great things, and we're all doing it in different lanes. But if you had one person that collaborated this, that's what I love about being in Cobb County. Everybody I met so far loves Jeremy Walker, not just because Jeremy is crazy or he's from South Carolina, you know, and I'm funny or whatever. No, they love me because, again, my passion is here. They see where I'm going. I ask all the right questions, and then I ask a lot of questions that are not asked, and it opens the door to doing this because you see that we're trying to help somebody. We're trying to help a fellow veteran or whatever the case is. And so with the American Legions, with the VFWs, we don't have to be certified. That's a lot of people are putting a focus on something else. Let's look at the elephant in the room. We're really wanting to make sure that we take care of the veterans. So if I don't have the capability in the military, what do? I go to the next unit and I go and talk to somebody else. And that's all we need to do is make a coalition of the willing with what we have, and then make a strong force and move forward. But, you know, if we keep moving singularly, that's going to be a problem.
Well, that's wonderful, because I've been dealing with it, and like I said, that is the elephant in the room, uh, uh, because as you say, over the years I've developed networking relationships where I get calls, and I kind of have to decide who who I'm going to actually help me, and who's available, and who's uh, is accountability and response is always good, and that's and that, as you know, and as Anthony know, it's you develop a reputation, you develop a brand, or whatever you want to call it, and that's that's part of what we're committed to, you know. And myself and Anthony, ever since we've been available, we get calls from someone go out to the VA and someone mention my name, and I get a call.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah. But you know what? The bottom line, and I'm so glad that we have listeners out there sending in comments. And we had one Facebook comment talk about navigating the VA system in most cases is by word of mouth. And that's whereby we get that false information or lack of information or misinformation to try and navigate this monster. All you listeners out there listening, Jeremy Walker is the type of individual that you need to be talking to. Jeremy Walker and all the other VSOs, certified or not, someone that has the knowledge to help you begin the process. No, first of all, understand the process, to begin the process, and then bring whatever necessary to get into the process. And we're so happy that the rating time frame is somewhat cut down. What has been the average time now for start to finish for a Herman Anderson or Anthony Aiken, 40-year-old veteran getting out of the military, and we want to go and get benefits? What's that process like, and the time frame that particular person would have to go through for a possible decision?
So in 2 steps, it depends on 2 phases. It depends on the individual and how much information you submit. So unfortunately, the VA's lost like 50,000 employees in the last year. And understanding that is where we in the veteran community have to give the VA some grace. A lot of us get frustrated and be like, oh man, I want my rating. I want my rating. There's not enough people in the system anymore because of the way that the environment was. It's a toxic environment. So they're making shifts and changes to do that. Another thing is when you submit a rating, if you're not using the regulation, imagine going for a resume and somebody, we got these barracks lawyers that are telling you all this misinformation, and then it goes into the system. Well, it bogs down the system for everybody else. Well, if you're using the regulation, that's what Helmets to Boots focus on. If you were in the military and we lived off of regulation, you got out, the VA has the same thing. And most of us don't know what it is. Your doctors are not using regulation to actually write you a diagnosis and so forth. So everything that you submit now is going to be rejected. And you're like, oh, this process is so long. No, if you just knew the regulation, it would just streamline everything. So that's why I was like, I love that question, because most people come to me and say, man, I've submitted 3 or 4 times and somebody told me this. Somebody's not a medical professional. You know what I'm saying? They can't give you a diagnosis. That was great information. And yeah, it got your mind thinking. But just like anything else, you can fight Article 15 with a bunch of barracks lawyers. But when you come against that UCMJ manual, you're going to lose every time because it's black and white. And that's what we got to get more focus on in order to help ourselves. The VA, like you said, it's a monster, just like all the branches of the service are. But we all lived off of UCMJ, right? We had that one regulation that told us specifically this is what we do. We had a regulation on PT, a regulation on how we're supposed to do DNC. If we get back to that mindset, we will be able to make a better system, a better navigate the process. And then maybe in a year, you would probably get your disability rate. And a lot of the focus now is on the active component getting out of the military. So, hey, they're trying to shift gears. Let's help these guys as soon as they get out, because one is going to help prevent homelessness, suicides. That's a major shift, life change, getting out of the military. And now you're used to living off of this money, and then you're in the job process and the regulations change for, hey, I can't get a job as soon as I get out, or whatever case is. So you're really needing that secondary disability rate or whatever case is to help with your family members. So, and then you look at the abuse rate. I mean, everybody's got stress. It's going to, pressure bust pipes, as my granddaddy used to say. But when you're in a financial strain, then all of a sudden it leads into so many different things. So if we're not looking at the baseline of all of these problems, you see where the veteran populace have homelessness and domestic violence and all that other stuff going on, just off of simple things as knowing a regulation.
Right. I mean, you said something earlier that, and I keep reflecting on my journey to get where I am. Most veterans don't understand that the VA is really 2 systems to help you get your disability. There's the hospital side, and then there's the regional office side where the decisions are made. The problem most veterans have, I don't understand, and you said it eloquently, is that the doctors that are treating you don't understand the regulations of where you're trying to go. You really need to educate that doctor, male or female, I'm here for this illness. I received this on active duty. I'm trying to go and get my disability. I need you to understand that so you can write my diagnosis in such a way, or your evaluation in such a way that when it goes across the yard to the regional office, that doctor understands what they're trying to look at. Because if they don't understand how to write it up or where you're trying to go, and just be very lackadaisical in their languages, that's going to create an issue for you. The other part is, my VSO, Brian, told me, when you leave your doctor's office, you have the right to get a copy of what was written that day.
Yes.
You have that right to take a look at what was written. So now you understand what that doctor's writing. If you don't agree with it or you need additional information, put it to it and then personally give it to your VSO so they can personally put it in the hand of the rater. So there's certain things, nuances that a lot of people don't know. It took me 2 years to understand that process to get my disability rating.
And that's why I created Helmets to Boots. If you had that knowledge coming straight out, and then understanding you don't have to just go through the VSOs. You have My Healthy Vet, but like you said, the Vietnam era, we have problems with using computers. This is where veteran service officers will actually help at legions and different things like that. Like one of the things I spend a lot of time doing is help uploading stuff into My Healthy Vet or explaining that or putting out the process. Mr. Herman said it earlier. There's a flood of things that's going on from the VA that a lot of us don't really understand. Well, okay, community care is a great program, but if you don't understand that if you can't get an appointment within 30 days that you can request to go to community care, you can request that. Okay, hey, that same thing you're talking about, these appointments, one of the things I really push in Helmets to Boots is these are our appointments. You know, we get out the military and we think we go to the doctor and so forth, and they, you know, we work for them. No, they work for us. So I'm gonna empower you with this knowledge to be like, this is my appointment. How many times have you gone in and a doctor may look at you for 5 minutes, but you got a 30-minute appointment or an hour? How about ask questions? Now, if you knew what to ask and you had the regulation, and you could say, hey, doc, I think this is what's bothering me or whatever case is. You have the right to communicate with them and let them diagnose yourself. But the problem is we lose that sense of purpose or that sense of empowerment. And so one of the things I was looking back at when I started Helmets to Boots was I need to empower veterans with the knowledge of themselves. You know, I got to get over this thing that I'm a 20-year-old, I'm a 16-year-old that just came in. No, I'm 37 years old. I've been through 3 combat tours. My body's broken. My family's changing and so forth. I'm not the same person I was. And now all of a sudden, let's have a conversation about it. What happened to me? But when we got to the mentality of suck it up and drive on for so long, you continue that once you get out and you're hurting yourself. Well, I don't want to talk about it. So the doctors, which I'm not going to beat up the VA or I'm not going to beat up the civilian side. Because if I walk in right now, I still look good for, you know, for my age. But if I don't tell them I served in the military, they don't know the difference between me or a civilian. So we have to start saying what happened to us and so forth. And that's a different conversation. It's not, hey, you know, you hear a lot of us say, well, somebody got to coach me through this. No, I don't have to coach you through this. I'm going to coach you to have a conversation and be proud that you served this country. So people who never served, people who are taking care of you can understand when they write that note up, this happened to you in service.
Yeah.
So you can get your service connection.
Let me do a couple of things before time run out. I am having a resource fair on the 31st of this month along Georgia Department of Veteran Services, Vita Brooks. So let me read the announcement. The Georgia Department of Veteran Services outreach team is reaching out to extend a heartfelt invitation to participate in the Veteran Helping Veterans, Veteran and Family Resource Fair on Friday, January 31st, 2025, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Hearts to Nourish Hope. The address is 640 Georgia Highway 138, Riverdale, Georgia, 30274. The significant event is organized and sponsored by Veteran Helping Veterans and supported by the Georgia Department of Veteran Services. It is aimed to provide local, state, and federal resources to service members, veterans, and their families to help foster a platform dedicated to enhancing the health and well-being of our esteemed veterans while raising awareness of the earned benefit. The Veteran and Family Resource Fair seeks to unite various organizations passionate about supporting our veterans, providing a space for information, dissemination, networking, collaboration. Your organization's involvement will greatly contribute to the success of this event. Uh, so this is event that I have scheduled in connection with Vita. I will be. I have sent out some invitation. I'll be sending you one Germany to participate. So that is coming up, and those are the goals.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. One thing I'd like to circle back to Mr. Walker, because I think it's pretty important that we do this, because there's so much information out there, but a lot of veterans don't know what information's out there and how to go about it. So we hope that this show, and I love to see all of the emblems you have on your banner because of all of the different services and the individuals that you could provide support to. But not only is this medium Veterans Today Talk Radio, but your network, so we can get the people out there to know what the benefits and things that they have earned that they should go and seek out. Because it's a shame that we have veterans that have been in so many different campaigns that die and never get one red cent.
Yes.
Herman and I are from an era, the Vietnam era, when we only really had one campaign to deal with, Vietnam. And a lot of the soldiers are still dealing from that area with that. But let's take a look at your era. We're talking Afghanistan, we're talking Iraq, we're talking Grenada, we're talking Honduras, we're talking Niger, we're talking places that we didn't even know about.
Yeah.
And then we got these soldiers, airmen, and all the others are coming into a system at a very young age.
Yeah.
And they're going to be in that system 50 to 60 years. So just think about the millions of dollars that you could provide not only to yourself, but to your family if you take the necessary steps to become rated. So if you take it from that standpoint, it's powerful.
Well, that's also another change too. You know, we went through another downsize not too long ago. So that, you know, most of us think of a veteran as an older gentleman, you know, male or female, older person, male or female or whatever case is. No, the PT standards change. We did a major downsize. So you have a major dynamic where, hey, somebody who's been in for 4 years or maybe 2 years, they got put out or they're getting hurt younger because of so many deployments right off the bat. As soon as you come out of boot camp and you're injured. So just having that understanding, and you're like, well, just think about when we were young. We thought we had forever and we could get everything straight. We had time. Well, you don't have that anymore. So when you look at those capabilities, hey, I was educated once I got out of the military. I bought my house, my VA home loan, and so forth like that. You can use all these things while you're on active duty, but again, because of that dynamic, being so young, we don't know. And then when we get out and being older, we don't know. So you're right. You're losing millions and millions of dollars, but you're also losing a lot of benefits that can help you prepare for the civilian world.
Tell me about
There's organizations right now. I went through the 4-block program that I could have actually got out as an intelligence officer, got into a Fortune 500 company right here in Atlanta instead of going up to DC doing the drone program. I was like, hey, you know what I'm saying? I want to, you know, once you get out the military, your thing is to get another high paying job. Well, 4-block actually, which is supported by Arthur Blanks, it gets military personnel into all the companies like Delta and Home Depot and so forth. It helps with the hiring process. but nobody told me about it. So I'll just change my name to Nobody. And almost everything that we don't get, you have a single source right now that's like my name is Mr. Nobody every day. But when we spend 3 hours together, you get an hour and a half of actually identifying who you are, but where can you go?
Yeah, where can you go?
Well, that's 2 points about that is like the networking in like what you mentioned about uh, getting information from the Arthur Blank Foundation and the connection within the city to with Coke Delta, whoever. That's that's not made to everybody. You have to be kind of in the right network or someone have a relationship with someone that will kind of let you know. And that's okay personally, but we want to be able to get more veterans available to get that information.
Correct.
So we
Yeah,
work on.
yeah, but that part is in not to correct you or anything, but it is open to everybody. It's as long as you served and you got a DD 214 and you
Good.
have honorable discharge. That's the thing, and that's where we have the disconnect in our community. Is there's so many organizations and there's not enough of the connection and not enough of the information flow. So
Well,
we
that's
can
actually
understand.
what I mean. It
Yeah,
is open to everybody,
yeah,
just like the Agent Orange, but they don't tell us.
right.
So unless you got the proper network, is what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, too, there's another monster out there. The other monster is that a lot of veterans don't understand that there are a lot of free educational services and systems that
Mm-hmm.
they can utilize to help them because we've had one Facebook comment today about, hey, we're using third-party organizations to agencies to review our records and walk us through the process. That's good, that's true, but
Mm-hmm.
remember, that's going to cost you dollars.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of dollars.
Yeah.
So if you understand, again, I got to go back to the rules of engagement. If you understand the rules of engagement and the rules of engagement that they're the Jeremy Walkers of the world and VSOs out there that can provide you a system or a service that is totally free or at a very, very, very minimal cost if there's any cost at all. So you care to elaborate on that?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I made helmets to boots. I'm like, there's corporations that's charging you $25,000 for them to file a claim for you, but nobody can guarantee you 100%. I don't guarantee 100% because it's on the VA, it's on the radar. Again, it's on the regulation. So the interesting part about it is I'm going to always stand on the regulation. I was a non-commissioned officer in the military, and we're going to go back to regulation. Treat all of these different organizations like car salesmen. People are going to promise you the nice shiny object or whatever the case is, but it all depends on the person that's working for you. It's all depending on how they talk. If
Yeah,
they're telling you specs on your car
yeah.
specifically, okay, you can't tell me anything about a car I'm buying because I did my own research.
Homework. Yeah, you
And
do work.
so
Yeah.
if you're not empowered, and that's why I love what I do, is I'm empower you for little to nothing, basically. So you'll have the knowledge yourself, and then moving forward, you don't even need me. But you got a regulation and an understanding. That's the same thing as me taking an E4, prepping them for a board to make E5. So eventually they can keep going through the system, make sergeant major or officer, becoming a colonel. It's all of that baseline of understanding it for yourself. And if you don't get that, I gotta, like my mom used to say, I got a what you call it in the Idaho I want to sell you. It's just you're sitting here like, wait a minute, for real. So we fall into prey to that, and then all of a sudden you in a contract where you're stuck for $25,000, but you just got a 10% increase, and now you have to get in another cycle and another cycle, and before you know it, you're in debt.
But before we run out of time, I that's wonderful for people to know. They need to know it, and it's also you mentioned so people like veterans expecting us to coach them for their prep or interviews. There's no free lunch, and there's nobody to hold your hand. Like when we
Mhm.
first started 15 years ago, people would come physically to our location, and they would meet with the person doing the service order, and they just sit there and talk. And somebody else would do all the input, all the writing.
Mhm.
But those days are gone away.
Oh,
I mean, you got to do it yourself. I mean, it's automated. It's you you can't expect whoever you're working with to do all your input and making all your phone calls. You're gonna have to do it. Family member, somebody got to do it.
Yeah. And it's like we go back to it's all about training. If I still remember how to do the 4 fundamentals of firing. And I learned that when I was 16 years old and basic training on how to fire a weapon. So if you train us how to do things, and that's one thing that most corporations look at when it comes to the veteran populace. If you let me learn something, I'm going to master it. Well, that's what we need when we get out. And we spend billions and billions of dollars to get a lot of people in the military, but we don't do the same thing on the back end. And so where there's a lack of information, there's a business. And that's why I started doing what I'm doing. I'm here about training. I love getting in front of people and talking and so forth. I ran from being an instructor my whole military career until I got to Fort Gillett. And now all of a sudden I'm the geospatial instructor for the drone programs and so forth. And that thing continues because the way you deliver training and the message and the information is what's most important. It's not about the person. So if we can get to that mindset, like still serving veterans, they do an awesome job on the resume class. Like they teach it to you and show you like step by step, like this is how you find the keywords. When I got out, nobody told me that. They was like, here's an example, fill it in. And all I did was just cut and paste a bunch of my NCO yards and stuff in there, and it didn't work. So I was frustrated. I'm like, why is this not working? Because it doesn't meet that. Or what about ONET? ONET will take your whole military bio and transfer it into a civilian resume for you. And all of a sudden you at least have a baseline, but it transitions all of those military terms into keywords that people are looking for in the civilian sector. But no, again, nobody tells you that. So I just changed my name to Nobody.
well, I tell you, Mr. Nobody, some from South Carolina that took me home when you said whatchamacallit. I knew right then. But it's just been a great show. I know we don't have that much time left, but the Mustard Seed Show was started by Miss Penny Rogers, and we got to give her the big ups.
Yeah.
Through her dream and her vision, we are where today. We also got to give a lot of kudos to Miss Vivian Greer, who's our technical person to make sure we do the right thing and make sure Herman and I look somewhat representable talking to our guests. So again, on behalf of WCEG Network and family, I salute you and say thank you very much.
Thank you guys. And I appreciate what you're doing. Hey, Mr. Herman, don't stop the emails. We need more of you and Mr. Anthony out there. I get a lot of information I push out to the veteran community through you and making sure that every time I step on the platform, everybody knows what's going on. So I thank you guys.
Thank you.
You got the invitation coming for me this afternoon for my event. So.
Yes, sir. I got you.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot, Mr. Walker. Homeboy. All of that. Continue your journey to success. We appreciate you very much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You.
Yeah, have a blessed day.
Okay, take care.
Thank you. All right.
Bye-bye.
With that and with Anthony closing remarks, we had a great opening 2025 program. We set the bar high, and we're going to do it every program we have. And we thank you for listening. We thank our big kahuna for allowing me and Anthony to do this. So everyone have a good afternoon.
Hey, great afternoon. Good luck to you.